Hey traders, welcome back to the FX YouTube channel. So we had some more interesting price action yesterday, so I came back for another update. We also had this Powell speech yesterday. Overall, no clear message by Powell. He was more or less neutral, but one interesting statement that he did make was that maybe the interest rates haven't been high enough long enough, so we likely won't see the rates come down until much later. And if we also consider the yields you can see on the charts here, both 10-year and 30-year went over 5% yesterday. They're starting to pull back a little now, which is normal after creating extreme highs, but I'm expecting further continuation. Both of these would normally indicate a stronger dollar, but for the time being, we're not seeing that. And this conflicts a lot with what we're seeing in the current price action as well. We should be seeing strength in DXY and the majors coming down, but that's not really the case with EU. And if we look at the other majors, we can see even further divergences. So you can see initially all of them were trending to the upside. Then we had that massive pullback last week, and then thereafter EU is continuing to trend to the upside. We're creating higher highs and higher lows. And AU, on the other hand, it's more or less neutral. It's not, for the time being, creating higher highs. It's more or less flat. And then if we look at GU and NU, they're more or less the opposite. They're creating lower lows. This was a high that was created yesterday, and you can see on AU didn't create a higher high. On GU and NU, it was far from creating a higher high. So we're starting to see a lot of divergence. EU seems to be the strongest. AU is more neutral, and GU and NU are trending downwards. So all in all, a lot of inconsistencies with what we're seeing in the price action and also with the fundamentals. And to be completely honest, I feel really lucky seeing how messy the price action has been this week, that I've been able to capitalize on some big moves this week. So starting with DXY on the daily time frame, you can see it's not really clear what DXY wants to do right now. It's currently consolidating in this range right here. The daily fair value gap is still holding. It did spike through it a little yesterday, but overall, in terms of the body, the bodies, it is holding. So there is a chance that it could continue to the upside from here. So the way I see it is, we had that massive drive up yesterday. This right here could all just be reaccumulation in order to drive the price further to the upside. But at the same time, I could see it the other way as well. We had the high that was created. We created a daily shift to the downside, pulled back. We're reaccumulating now. Potentially it could just be reaccumulating to drive price further to the downside. So like I said, I could see this going either way, but fundamentally it would make more sense if DXY started to show more strength and push up from here. So moving on to the hourly time frame. So when I look at this, I can see price going either way, but my preference would be the recent price action, and I'm expecting as of right now DXY to continue further to the downside. And the reason being is we created the high and the low of the week yesterday, but in doing so, the high actually filled the volume imbalance, so the new week opening gap. So this was the only imbalance that was left on the upside. So it would make sense that now that it's filled, for price to drive further to the downside. It's also created a lower low. Right now it's pulling back. And for the bearish scenarios, I could see one, the current area holding. So we have a supply level right here. Potentially this supply level can hold and price comes down from here. So we came back into the supply level and maybe price comes down from here. I could also see price coming up to either of these inefficiencies before coming to the downside. And my last bearish scenario would be price comes into the order block before pushing to the downside. So those are my bearish scenarios. At the same time, I also see bullish scenarios. So my bullish scenario is that we swept the low. Now it's time to bring the price to the upside. So we've done that last manipulation last night. Potentially price retests the extreme or clears out the inefficiency or the liquidity that's left behind here, comes down a little lower, and thereafter pushes to the upside. But like I said, I would like to see lower pricing on DXY. I would like to see a bigger pullback. The only thing that's confusing me right now is it's not aligning with fundamentals at all. So moving on to EU on the daily time frame. So what can we see right here? On the big picture, you can see that we've created a low, then a high, lower high, and it looks like we're going to continue to the upside from here to create a higher high. So this is how I see structure forming right now. Right now we're currently consolidating. Yesterday I thought that we were going to continue to the downside after some mitigation, but all we really did was retest the order block and thereafter shot up and created a higher high after. So we also came into the order block up top. So essentially we're like in between two PD arrays right now. The order block at the top and the order block at the bottom. We're just consolidating within it. But structurally, it makes more sense for price to go up. Even if it was to come down, it would make more sense to sweep liquidity, so higher time frame liquidity, which would be this high, before coming to the downside. But what would make even more sense is for price to come above this buy side liquidity, where we have a daily fair value gap, we have equal highs on the left, we have a daily fair value gap right above that. It would make more sense for price to come into this daily fair value gap before reversing and coming to the downside. But what would make even more sense than that would to have a pullback that comes back into premium. There are still inefficiencies above. If it came into the premium levels, could come into this order block before reversing and coming to the downside. So short term, when I look at this, it makes more sense for price to continue to the upside. The only thing that bothers me right now is the fact that it's not consistent with the fundamentals. The fundamentals are telling me we should be seeing strength in the dollar. EU should be coming down. But for the time being, we're not seeing that. There's no signs of that. And structurally, it's not showing that at all. What I'm seeing is, from a structure point of view, we should be continuing further to the upside. So now moving on to the hourly time frame, still on EU. So what we can see is the day before yesterday, we had a massive push to the downside. We had a hourly shift. I was thinking in my mind, maybe we've come into the day, well, we filled the daily fair value gap, came into the hourly fair value gap above, retested it. Now it's time to come down. So after that, what I was thinking is we created this liquidity point right here. Maybe price comes up to it. There was also a 4-hour fair value gap just above it. I was thinking we were going to go into the fair value gap and then reverse and come down from there. So if you look, ultimately that didn't happen. We just continued to push to the upside. And you can see what happened is we came into the daily order block. We reacted off of it, consolidated, we had a shift, and after this shift, we massively pushed to the upside. We came to the extreme of the supply on the left, reacted, came back for a pullback, but then when Powell spoke, we had another aggressive move to the upside, clearing these equal highs on the left, coming into the daily bearish order block, and thereafter having a reaction. So potentially this was a draw on liquidity, and now we push to the downside. But as I said, I'm preferring further price to the upside. So I would like to see EU push higher, and if we did push higher, I could see a few scenarios happening. So we're having a pullback right now. We came into the hourly demand. Maybe we have a shift here, and thereafter we see price push to the upside. I could also see price come even lower into the fair value gap, so the inefficiency below. It would also sweep these two equal lows right here, and from there we have a shift and we see price push further to the upside. And I could also see price coming as low as the extreme, and from the extreme we have a shift and price pushes to the upside. So those are the bullish scenarios that I'll be watching for today, preferably during London session. But as I said, it could also come down from here. Maybe the order block was a draw on liquidity. We filled all the imbalance on this hourly fair value gap, came into this hourly order block as well. So maybe that was a draw on liquidity, and now price pushes down from here. And if it does, we've already started to show some signs of weakness. What I would like to see next is for price to come back, retest the order block, more the extreme level, thereafter have a shift, and then see price come to the downside from here. But like I said, my preference from a structure point of view is to see higher pricing on EU. But at the same time, fundamentally, it makes more sense for the dollar to start shooting up and EU to start coming down. So we'll just have to wait and see which setups play out for us in London session, in New York session. We don't have so much in news today. There is retail sales for the UK, but aside from that, it's pretty much clear. There isn't really so much else to be concerned with. So we may not have a lot of strong volatile movement today, but if price continues with order flow and the current trend that we have, we should see price pushing to the upside. Anyways, that's it for today's update. Just a quick recap. I prefer EU to continue to the upside. I'll be primarily looking for buy setups, but keeping in mind EU may have hit its buy side targets already. So also considering the fact that it may come down, so look for sells from the relevant areas. The price action has been quite confusing recently. The main thing is to be patient, wait for the setups to form, avoid any risk setups or early entries, and you'll be much less likely to lose trades. Let's end the week strong, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.
Black Swan.